Democrats once again blaming Republicans for gang mass shootings that are plaguing our nations. Radically left Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, you see him right there. He's blasting conservative lawmakers after a mass shooting there, saying Republicans are against voter safety. He also said arresting people for illegal gun possession isn't the answer. So while cops are making record arrests, convictions are at record lows, and it's all due to these rogue district attorneys. Joining us now to discuss, spokesperson for the National Police Association and retired Chicago area police officer Betsy Brantner Smith. Also joining us, NYPD Sergeant and founder of Blue Lives Matter, Joe Imperatrice. Thank you guys for being with us. I'll start off with you first, Joe. I was just watching this video on Twitter that happens in Queens. I don't know if you saw it. It's an elderly man. He's walking down the street, 108th Street and Jamaica Avenue, 87 years old. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon when a stray bullet, and you see that he gets hit with something. You see the blood coming and he collapses on the street. People don't understand that crime is everywhere, and it could be you, the next person that gets caught in the crossfire simply walking down the street to go get some milk.
Well, this is where those district attorneys, like the one that you mentioned, comes out and says arresting people for guns makes no sense. It absolutely does. When you have cancer, you go to the doctors, you get treatment, and you cut it out. You remove the problem. That's what you have to do with crime in the streets. You remove the problem from the equation. You put the bad guy behind bars, and all of a sudden you have safer streets. It's common sense, and we have to get these progressive, off-the-wall DAs out of office if we plan on making our city streets safer.
Right. I mean, they're more concerned, the district attorneys, like you have Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg with going after Trump and whomever else instead of the actual criminals. We see what happens with the Marine who stepped in to be a good Samaritan. He's facing 15 years behind bars. Speaking of radicals, I want to say President Biden, he's become one of them. He was speaking at the National Education Association saying giving teachers guns is not the answer. Take a listen.
By the way, arming teachers is not the answer. Arming teachers is not the answer. Banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, extensive background checks, they're part of the answer. They'll make a big difference.
Betsy, in all of these big cities, we're seeing it in Baltimore, we're seeing it in Washington, D.C., we're seeing that teenagers are not using assault-style weapons. These mass shootings are gang shootings. Why not address the actual real problem if we want a real solution?
Because if you keep saying things like, we have to ban assault weapons, you have no responsibility. You don't have to do anything. And that's exactly what Joe Biden is doing. We have 32,000 identified street gangs in this country right now. If Joe Biden was serious about doing something about that, he would flood every gang-infested city with federal agents and federal prosecutors to go with them and start enforcing all of these gun laws and other laws that would get people off the streets. But instead, he wants to pander to the teachers' unions and just talk about getting rid of assault weapons. There's no such thing as an assault weapon, and it's not assault-style rifles that are killing people, especially young people in this country. And yet you have DAs like Alvin Bragg and 70 others at least around the country who say, oh, you know what? If you get caught with a firearm, as long as you didn't shoot anybody, we're going to let you go. It's absolute insanity, Lydia.
That's absolutely what's happening. And young people that are under the age of 18, they're getting referred to family court. So they're becoming gun mules for the gangs. I also want to talk about another issue that's causing this causing the crisis of crime. It's drugs. There's actually a new street drug called tranq. It's dominating the drug trade in a number of major U.S. cities. Joe, I'll get your reaction too, Betsy. I don't have to tell you. I mean, we're seeing it on the streets of New York City. People with gaping wounds, rotting. It's like The Walking Dead. We see it in Philadelphia, New York City, Chicago, all over the country. And people are shooting up in public as well. At what point are Democrats going to wake up and say these people need forced treatment?
Well, they're going to get there when they get voted out of office. We need to get police officers that want to do the job, that recognize drugs from day one in the academy. We have to go out there and teach our officers the recognition of all types of drugs. So not only do you send the officers out there to make arrests, but you get the help they need by bringing them to the emergency rooms to start the process. And you can't have the doctors at the emergency rooms just kick them out in a revolving door and put them back out there. They need treatment. They need to be forced there to get themselves clean so that they can slowly become productive again. We walk over people in New York City and we're literally letting these people rot away. Where are the local politicians that claim that they care so much that they want change? Make them go out there, call their office, and have them do their job, because they're obviously not doing it, and it's getting worse every single day.
And Betsy, it's not just the inner cities, obviously San Francisco and all these other big cities. It's starting to creep into the suburbs too, drugs. It's affecting every corner of this nation. We need to force people into treatment. What do you think? That's how I feel.
Well, here where I live in Pima County, Arizona, we have blue tarped homeless encampments that are nothing but fentanyl dens. And I'm sitting 80 miles from the southern border right now. And fentanyl, which is one of the drugs that has the tranq in it. Tranq is it's an animal tranquilizer, and it's a cheap cutting tool, cutting agent for these drugs. And what they do is just continue, it's so cheap now. They just take it, they shoot it, their skin rots. And yet we will not force them into treatment. And especially in these Democrat-run areas, they say, oh, people, they can be homeless if they want. They can be drug addicts if we want. And we're not going to do anything to treat them. And what they end up doing is affecting the quality of life, not just for themselves, but for everyone who lives in these areas. And Lydia, you're right. It's creeping into the suburbs, into rural areas, and it's affecting everyone's lives in America. And Democrat politicians just throw up their hands and say, let them be.
I know. We're acting like a person that's high on drugs, that's not making rational decisions, make a rational choice and get treatment. Sometimes people need to be forced into treatment because they're not able to make the right decision. Betsy Brantner Smith and Joe Imperatrice, thank you guys for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.